Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Just Love Them podcast. I'm your host, Cherie Best. Join us to discover how to stay connected, how to find healing, and how to deepen your relationships with the people you care about who have made different religious choices than you have. Today, I have a very special guest joining me, Kathie Christensen. Kathie brings a lifetime of remarkable experience and insight to our conversation today. For 30 years, she served as a foster parent for the state of Utah, caring for children who had experienced some of the most difficult circumstances, including severe behavioral challenges and the trauma of abuse. Through decades of walking alongside these children, Kathie has developed an extraordinary ability to observe and understand human behavior. She learned to see beyond the surface, to recognize what people are really feeling, what they need, and how to respond with both wisdom and compassion. Those who know Kathie often describe her as deeply intuitive, a thoughtful and reflective thinker, and a master teacher who helps others see things in a way they never have before. Her insights come not from theory, but from years of real-life experience working closely with people in their most vulnerable moments. She's recently done extensive research into the difference between peacemaking and peacekeeping, and that is what she's here to talk with us about today. Welcome, Kathie.
Thanks, Cherie.
I also want to say a little bit about how we know each other. Kathie and I have been friends for probably 35 plus years, maybe-ish. I have actually learned how to be a better mother through Kathie. In fact, there are ways I would say Kathie saved my family when I was a total in-the-box thinker. And when my kids were starting to do the rebellion thing and not wanting to go to church and different things, and I just freaked out and I didn't know what to do. And Kathie was the one who grounded me, who helped me, who taught me. So I owe you a lot, and it means a lot to me that you're here with me today.
Thank you. I love you so much.
Thanks. Love you too. Well, Kathie's been doing this research about peacemaking and peacekeeping, and I feel like it's really valuable for our conversation because as we have loved ones who are leaving our church, there's so much figuring out how to keep the peace, figuring out how to have peace in our families, figuring out those relationships that are changing. There's this place in the movie, The Cokeville Miracle, where this man has come into this building. He's taken over this building. He's got guns and a bomb, and he's going to blow up the school, and his wife is with him, and he hands her over the bomb, puts the thing on her wrist, and he's going to the bathroom. And while he's gone, the teacher comes in, and she's like, "Why are you doing this?" She asked this wife, "Why are you doing this?" And the wife says, "Sometimes you just got to do what it takes to keep the peace." This is keeping the peace. So sometimes I feel like in our lives, that's a very extreme example, but I feel like sometimes in our lives, and as we're navigating these really difficult relationships, we sometimes go too far in doing what it takes to keep the peace. And that's not always the right thing. And Kathie, I've just loved what the research that you've shared with me, and I can't wait for you to share it with my listeners. So where do you want to start? Where would you say maybe a simple definition, the difference between the two even?
I was thinking, just based on what you said about this lady who said, well, sometimes you just need to keep the peace. I think a lot of people find themselves in the middle of something where they were trying to keep the peace all along, and they wake up and say, I have nothing, and I have no peace, and all I've ever wanted was peace. And all my decisions and everything I did was trying to not be in this bad place, but to be a good person and have a good result. And I think that does happen. So let's define peacemaking and peacekeeping. Peacekeeping is status quo. Peacekeeping is not rocking the boat. Peacekeeping is kind of placating. Peacekeeping is keeping everything the same and not doing much different, just getting things to settle down. The main idea of peacekeeping is to settle things down. Peacemaking, on the other hand, is leaning into conflict with the intent of bringing peace where there was once chaos. Peacemaking requires action. Peacemaking is difficult. Peacemaking is going to require action. Peacemaking is what God has asked us to do. And I was thinking how It's not easy, but I want to be called one of the children of God. And blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. And I thought, okay, so he has asked us to be peacemakers. And my initial study showed me that peacemaking is not what people think. Most people think peacemaking is being passive or maybe even weak.
Yeah, like they seem like they could be synonymous, but they're not, are
They're
they?
not at all. They're so different. And peacemaking requires courage and to be thoughtful. Peacekeeping is easier, especially if you identify as a people pleaser. I mean, most people know what a people pleaser is. I would say that I'm a reformed people pleaser. I'm still working on it, but I can be brave and be a peacemaker. And now that I understand more clearly that God wants me to be a peacemaker, I know more clearly how I'm supposed to behave and what I'm supposed to do. It does make my heart beat fast sometimes when I think about conflict. It's not escaping from all conflict. Sometimes peacemaking really is precipitating a crisis by bringing something up, putting it on the table. This doesn't mean you're starting a fight, especially if you're advocating for yourself. But if you're trying to create peace, sometimes that means you need to lay out a conversation. And if laying out the conversation means the other party isn't going to like it, and then there's some friction, it doesn't mean you did something wrong. It doesn't mean that you started a fight. You can still be a peacemaker, regardless of how anybody else responds or reacts.
I think that sometimes we think we're being a peacemaker when the goal is to have no conflict. You
Hmm.
know, we're thinking that means we're being a peacemaker, but a lot of times what it is we're doing it because we're uncomfortable.
Hmm.
We are uncomfortable with conflict, and so we don't want to have conflict. But it's not necessarily it's not peacemaking, it's peacekeeping.
Right. And a lot of people say, I hate conflict. I don't want to fight. We don't like it. None of us do.
Hmm.
It makes us uncomfortable, miserable sometimes to be part of conflict. But we're not supposed to run away. We're supposed to be representatives of Jesus Christ in everything. And sometimes that means standing firm, being loving, having a good intent, and hoping for the best.
Can you give me an example? Because sometimes it's kind of hard to know when it's one or when it's the other. Sometimes it's hard to define.
Peacekeeper would be someone who really puts their own desires and wants aside. Peacekeeper is just kind of bringing it down, and they're not trying to advocate for themselves. They actually dishonor self because they're just trying to be small and placate the other person. Avoiding conflict is the number one thing that they're trying to do. So a peacemaker honors self and honors the other person and believes that they can move forward, leaning into conflict, having the intent that they want to bring peace. Even if the other person reacts in a big way or a negative way, it doesn't mean you did something wrong. You can still be that peacemaker and say, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to bring peace when there wasn't any peace. And it is uncomfortable.
I know you've had some personal examples recently. I would love it if you'd be willing to share.
Okay. So, right in the middle of the study, I had this real life opportunity. I was at a social event. Okay, so there's a group of people complaining about an individual who was doing something against the rules. And that's a little gossipy, it's better to talk to someone than talk about someone. So I was thinking, oh, I'll just say something. So I said, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that. And it was friendly and I was direct, and the person exploded. And in a room of probably 40 or 50 people, got really loud, stood over me, brought in all kinds of other issues and complaints. And my heart was beating fast. And I thought, okay, I didn't do anything wrong. I reached out in a spirit of fellowship, just reminding of the rules, believing it's better to talk to someone than to talk about them. So I tried to reason with this person. And so I never raised my voice and I didn't interrupt them. I stayed what I call emotionally regulated. And a lot of times that brings the other person to reason. They see that there's no threat here and we can talk like adults. But that wasn't the case this time. It felt like that there was a fire and that this person was throwing logs and gasoline and on
Wow.
it just kept getting bigger and bigger and my goal was, well, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. You see my point. And I tried several times. I felt like I got beat up. That's how I felt. When my level of discomfort exceeded what I thought was kind of normal or expected, I was frightened and I actually looked around and I saw silence in the room and some of the other gentlemen were stepping back. This other individual was tall and loud and I thought I think he's a regular bully type of personality. But I felt very alone. I saw one of the individuals that was in charge. She ducked down and I thought, I'm sure she doesn't like contention, but neither do I. I'm trying to be a peacemaker. My feeling at the time was that I was being viewed as one of two children fighting, but I didn't raise my voice, and I thought this was really awkward position to be in. I did change my thinking later. After I had time to go over it, I thought, okay, I didn't do anything wrong. I believe that other people that witnessed this saw that I was calm and patient. They probably thought, oh, I had it all under control. So that, even though I was afraid and I saw people moving back and I felt really alone, the more I thought about it, the more I thought I probably gave off the impression that I had this 100% under control. So nobody thought or had any indication that I needed support. But in my heart, I did need support. And I think I don't need someone to start an argument on my behalf. I don't need somebody to get verbal because I don't want to have an argument. But what would have been nice is if someone took a step closer to me and just stood by me. For one, bullies don't always want an audience. They don't always want to have witnesses and things like
Hmm.
that. And I would have felt better. So in my thinking that if I witness another person who's doing a peacemaking effort, I might just stand next to them to show my support.
Yeah, I like that. Another way that you and I have both talked about that describes the same thing is nice versus kind.
Hmm.
So I would say in this situation where you had this conflict, you were being kind. You're trying to help it be fair for everyone and not have someone break the rules that affects everybody else. So you were being kind and you are also being nice, but you weren't being a doormat nice by like, oh, I'm just not going to say anything. It's okay. I'll just go and play with this other group or whatever. So there is a difference there.
It just seemed like the alternative is to build resentment. I saw gossip happening. Nobody likes this rule breaking thing. And I know this person already knew. So I was just kind of given a friendly reminder, really not trying to make a big deal about it. But I thought that's doing the right thing. That's talking directly to somebody and not gossiping about them. But it did blow up. And the person made attacks about this and this and that and this, all these things that were not related. So I'm thinking I've put this one issue on the table. This is one tip that helps me stay regulated is when somebody brings in outside fuel, I stay right on the main issue. I stay right there
What does
because
that look like?
I say, but you see my point. But you know what I mean, that we're not supposed to. You guys know that, that kind of thing. When they're saying, you're mean and nasty, and you're, it was really not logical. But I don't address this and go off on a tangent because it takes away from the main idea and doesn't help anybody. And sometimes when people are grasping to be in control, they want to get you off topic. So
Hmm.
you got to stand your ground and stay on topic and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to do. I'm glad I did. The timing was kind of funny.
Yeah, like a little living laboratory
I got
while
a
you're
real life,
studying it, right?
right? Really, yeah.
I think one thing I'm getting from what you're saying is that it's important to stay in personal integrity
Hmm.
when there's conflict.
Hmm.
And I think conflict is the big word. We all hate conflict, like you said,
Hmm.
but it really is conflict that either flips us into peacemaking or flips us into peacekeeping.
Right.
It really is conflict. That's the common denominator,
Hmm. Hmm.
the way I see it. I think
We
it's
either address something or we don't address it.
I
If
think
there's a
that's a really good
problem
way to put
and we're
it.
not addressing it, then we're letting it go. And that's not the right thing. And I think as women in our culture, it's easy to say, well, this other person has really big feelings about this. I don't really care about it that much because I really hate conflict, so I'm just going to let it go. But women that live like that, spend whole marriages like that, end up having created a monster, really create giving someone who maybe has the tendency to be a taker, just giving because I don't like conflict, they will have no peace. And then they've got this thing that doesn't go both ways. And I mean, it's really hard to be wise. But when you wake up and see, okay, I've dishonored myself by not advocating for myself, Jesus wants me to have a self. So when there's something that's not right, I don't like it, I can speak, but I can't control the reaction that somebody else is going to have. I can still claim peacemaker status even when the other person gets really upset with me, I can still claim blessings from heaven for trying to do the right thing.
I think this is really important in the topic that we have here. I mean, the goal is to just love our people who have made different
Mhm.
religious choices than we have.
Mhm.
And oftentimes there is conflict. It creates conflict
Mhm.
because we want to push our agenda and they want to push theirs, and we want to bring them back to what we believe and they want to run the other way,
So it would be fair to
usually.
say everybody has an agenda and
Yes.
everybody has strong feelings about it. So
Yes.
how do you become a peacemaker when everybody has strong feelings and they're diametrically opposed? Well,
Yeah. How do you?
do we need to jump in the ring at all? If I know that you are diametrically opposed to my position, there we are. We can still have peace and be okay. I don't need to change you. You don't need to change me. The only time it becomes an issue is when there's a conversation and this person is expressing whatever they're expressing. I don't need to take anything personal. I can still live my life the way I want to live my life. I just don't see if there's criticism coming my way, if this person is saying, I would restate what they're saying, but hold my ground. There's lots of ways to avoid the conflict when it's not going to lead to a peacemaking opportunity.
Mhm.
Just diametrically opposed.
I think it's really important to think about not taking things personally because I know that when my children started to leave the church, I totally took it personally.
You were crushed.
So there was the side of me that was beating myself up. If only I had done this, or what did I do wrong, or if only I
Mhm.
had been this different in this way, or well, if only I tried harder, all of that. There was that side. And then there was the other side where I was just mad at them.
Yeah.
Because dang it, I put all this effort into you and now you're doing it wrong.
Hmm.
That was my thinking. And I took it so personally, the choices they were making. When really, once I got more emotionally healthy and I realized this has nothing to do with me.
Which is a good place to be, Sheree.
It's a hard place to get to, though.
Yes, because it's easier to look at these things that hurt our heart. It's easier to say, it was me. If I did this or this different, or if I didn't do this, things would be because we're responsible people. And if we take responsibility, it just feels better than if we say, clearly, they are making their own choice as they are intended to use their agency, to
Yeah,
make their own choice. Clearly, they're doing it, and that's just the way it is. So that's harder than to say, oh, I didn't have the right formula or I didn't execute this exactly the right way.
yeah,
It's harder to say, this is what it's all about. They're making their choices. That's what we're here to do. That's painful. So you
yeah,
say you got healthier.
yeah.
So now where are you when you see choices? I'm just curious.
Well, now I'm able to do what you said about not taking it personally. What I
Mhm.
realize now, and I wish I could have realized from the very beginning, that would have really helped when we were in conflict is to just accept this person has as much right to make whatever choice they want as I have to make whatever
Mhm.
choice I
Mhm.
want. And it doesn't say anything about me as a mother, as
Mhm.
a wife, as a sister, as a friend. It doesn't say anything about me.
Mhm.
What I see now is that I don't have enough power to make someone else be a certain way. And none of us do. And we shouldn't. We're not
And
in,
nor should
not,
you.
no, no, we shouldn't. Because that was Satan's plan, right?
Mhm.
Was to have enough power to make everybody do what they wanted. And so if my loved one chooses that they want to do what I'm doing and follow the way I'm going, great. But I don't have to take it personally, and I don't have to be completely personally wounded when they don't.
Mhm.
And that helps so much. If you can get to the place where you feel that way, then when the conflict arises, because the conflict is going to arise, there are going to
Mhm.
be conversations
Mhm.
where they're like, well, you believe this and this and this, and it's so stupid because of this and this, and here's how you're wrong. Those conversations just do happen when there's a divergence of values, and
Mhm.
they do want to talk about it. Then you can be in that place of personal integrity where you can just restate. I think that's such a beautiful thing. You just restate what they're saying. Instead of taking it personally, you just restate, oh, it sounds like you think that Joseph Smith was a complete liar. Oh, okay. Tell me more about that.
Okay, I
And
think
they're,
that's one great. I mean, it's great to have several tricks in the bag to pull out to help you with difficult situations. Another one would be sometimes when you're personally attacked. I've seen this happen, personally attacked for your beliefs. I think it's okay to be a peacemaker to say, "Hey, just like you're entitled to whatever you believe, I'm entitled to whatever I believe. We can still get along."
love it. Love that. Yes. So that you're saying, hey, I honor what you believe, but I also get to have a belief that you get to honor
And
back.
sometimes that's where the sparks really start flying, and you see, oh, it's not okay for me to have my own belief, but it really is. But then you
Yeah.
just kind of hunker down, weather the storm, let it go, and then do what you just gave an example of, like saying, tell me more. So you feel this way. Boy, you feel strongly about that. Let's talk about it and let them have an audience.
Yeah. Without feeling like you're being personally attacked or
Mhm.
they have to keep furthering their agenda because you're
Listening
arguing with it,
because
you
you're not
know?
listening. Yeah, yeah.
Any other tricks that help you be a peacemaker instead of a peacekeeper in those kinds of
Peacemaker.
situations?
When a problem arises, your heart's going to beat fast. Your palms are going to get sweaty. You might notice that it's hard to keep regular breathing. That's normal. It's normal. You
My
take
face will even flush.
so you say, okay, I'm having this huge reaction. So our nervous system might say, danger, danger, run away. But to be a peacemaker, we're going to breathe and stay with it for a minute. We're going to be so careful because we're going to lean into conflict with the intent of bringing peace. Sometimes it's just a couple of sentences. It doesn't, your voice can be wavery too, wavely. I don't know what to call it. It's like when
Yeah.
it comes out, but you can still put out your message and be that peacemaker. And you don't have to have a great end result either. It could just be one step in the right direction, and that's enough. That's peacemaking.
It's really brave to take this step when someone's used to being a peacekeeper.
Hmm.
It's so much easier to just let the person talk and not say anything or walk away or whatever, or just let yourself get beat up. It's just so much easier to just take it and be a peacekeeper, which
It's
does so
fine.
much damage to you internally. And like you said, can create a monster for the other person.
Well, and let's think about how foreign it is to lean into peacemaking when we're used to being a peacekeeper. So let's say my heart rate goes up, I got the breathing thing happening, I'm shaking a little bit, I'm feeling really uncomfortable. A peacekeeper will want to get out of that as soon as possible and then say, whoo, I feel much better. Yes, you didn't make peace. We must stay there. Just stay there for a minute. Just be there and, like I say, lean into it with a
Yeah.
good intent, trying to
Yeah.
bring about peace.
I recently interviewed Michael and Jeff McLean. So Michael McLean's the father, Jeff
Oh,
McLean's the son. So I did one episode with Michael and one episode with Jeff, and it was very, very interesting because they just wrote a book together called "Stay in the Room," and
I love it.
it's about exactly what you're saying with going away and then being like, "Oh my gosh, okay, I'm out of that situation. I feel so much better." But you haven't really resolved anything. You haven't really healed anything. You haven't really mended anything. So just stay in the room and stay with it, even though it's hugely
Great idea.
uncomfortable.
A great
is really
peacekeeper.
what creates the peacemaking. It's really what allows you to heal and mend a relationship.
I love that. I witnessed a peacemaker in my childhood once who was present in a situation that was really frightening to me as a child. And this peacemaker leaned into the conflict and stayed, literally, stayed in the room. I was so scared when I was a little kid, but this lady was determined to make peace and she saw it through to the end. She stayed in the room, and I had peace that day because of this woman. I don't even know her name. I'm just so grateful that there's someone who was really brave to do something that I'd never seen anybody do before and
Yeah.
to face that.
And she probably did have the sweaty palms and the heart racing and everything, but she was advocating for something that was more important than
It
peacekeeping.
was a beautiful thing to watch. I do remember that she stayed regulated emotionally, that she was rather direct, and she really did it. I really got to see an example of somebody bring peace.
Do you have any suggestions for how somebody can stay regulated in that situation? Because I know that when you're getting conflict from the other person and you're trying to be a peacemaker and you're trying to restate what they're saying and you're trying to not take it personally, it's so easy to get snagged though, especially if someone, for me, I guess, if someone personally attacks me, something about me, I can get pulled off my mark. So, do you have any tips for how to stay regulated when someone's
Well,
trying to pull you
it's a
off your mark?
process, and it takes practice. It's not like I was just born with it. You develop it. So you've been in a circumstance where someone got personal and you blew it.
Yeah.
You didn't stay regulated. Okay, you learn from it. The next time it happens, you say, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to watch it here, and maybe you blow it in a different way. I got that way working with teenage girls that were hostile. They'd been taken away from their families, they'd been taken away from the party life. They were all of a sudden in a program 24/7 supervision. No, I say to the 13-year-old, you cannot have a 26-year-old boyfriend. You will not be going out this weekend. And this is all the fun that she ever knew, the only person that she felt cared about her. So she's going to yell at me, you're not my mom. And she's going to scream and yell and say terrible things about me, my personality, my house, whatever, my rules, anything. It used to make my heart flutter. And I would think, wow, she's really a wild one. This is mean. And then I got a lot of training and I had a lot of practice. And I realized that foster care is not fun. It is not easy. And I could respond with love. So I got better at it to the point where somebody could yell at me, even swear. You're not my mom. I would stay there and say, I know, honey, and she's really missing out. I'm so sorry. It's not easy to be in foster care. I am so sorry. Most 13-year-old, they melt and then everything's okay. But there were so many rewards for me for staying regulated that I was highly motivated to work on it. And it's a kind of a blessing. It reflects back things in me that I need to work on. And if you have, conflict in your life, I would say stick with it. Think about it after. Don't push it out of your brain. Think about it, write about it. Where did you get snagged? Where did you get hooked? Where did you lose your cool? And then look at what are my triggers and what happened. You will get better if you review it and make the most of the material that you had at the time when you didn't do well. You will do better next time. And it's so rewarding when you can love people that are misbehaving, that don't seem to be lovable. It's so rewarding to stay in the room with those people to the end.
Wow. One thing that I really got from what you were saying, as you were describing, like the situation with the foster girl, the compassion that you had for her. And I know you were using this as an example because I know you did this with many, many foster children. But just the compassion. Yeah, I know it's not easy. Yeah, I know you're mad and I know I'm not your mom and she's really missing out. Just to have that compassion for that. So as I transition that scenario into a scenario with, for me, a child who has left the church and is having some emotion about something connected to a difference of opinion from me, if I could just exercise compassion rather than I'm being personally attacked, they're attacking my character instead of that. If I could just have compassion for where they're at
And
and just
sometimes
be
you don't
like,
have the compassion first. You say the compassionate statement, and that's to diffuse.
yeah,
So if she's attacking you for you made us sit down for family home meeting, that was so horrible. And I felt like I was a prisoner, you know. If you don't have compassion for somebody who had to sit in the room, you could say, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't create bad feelings. And that was not my intent. And do you want to tell me some more about it? I didn't know what
Hmm.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
said the compassionate thing. I don't really feel sorry that she had to sit in the room because I'm thinking you probably had awesome family lessons, But that's okay. I'm going to pretend that she's not my kid and she's just saying how she feels. And then I'm going to say, okay, I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah. I wish I would have understood how you felt. I
I
didn't
wish I
want you to feel
knew.
that way. That wasn't my intent.
Yep.
Just compassion. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
like that you said, even if you're not feeling it, you can still say it
Say
because
the
the
compassionate thing, do the
mm-hmm,
right thing.
mm-hmm.
It's called positive regard. We treat everyone with positive regard. If I were to go into a jail with women, I'm going to treat everyone with positive regard. Even if I know terrible things, I'm going to treat this person with positive regard. So I don't have to feel it first if I'm aware of something, but I can give positive regard. And then when you see people respond to positive regard, it makes you love them. It makes you feel more compassionate. You see a different side.
One other thing I was thinking of is if you know you're going to be interacting with somebody who is the situation is in the mending phase, shall we call it?
Hmm.
The mending phase. You can ask and pray ahead of time that God will be with you or that you will have angels with you and that so will they. You and I had talked recently about having angels. We've been invited to do that by our church leaders that we can have that. And it's not just for once in a lifetime terrible situations. We can have angels with us all the time. We can ask for that. And even there have been times when, in the moment, I didn't prep ahead of time because I didn't know there was going to be a conversation. I didn't know it was going to be difficult, but all of a sudden somebody is giving me conflict and they're up in my face and
Hmm.
it is scary. And you can just have a little prayer in your head and say, Heavenly Father, please help me. Please regulate me. Please surround me with angels. I will often ask for it to be a miracle. Please give me a miracle to resolve this. And
There are a
that
couple
doesn't mean I'm
things.
going to be a peacekeeper and just be quiet.
Hmm.
It means that I'm going to seek God's help on what to say, what not to say, and how to respond and what actions to take.
And sometimes if the person is emotionally dysregulated, being a peacemaker would be helping them get regulated. You can take a minute and help this person because you're not going to discuss anything or resolve any kind of difference when someone's dysregulated. I was going to say, if you don't know that a conflict's going to come and you're not prepared, a couple things to keep in mind would be your body language. Sometimes I would see an individual step behind a table or put a chair in front of them. That's not effective. So move the chair. Keep your arms open. Lower your voice. Maybe take a step closer. I have a good friend who is a member of the Baha'i religion, and I spoke to her about conflict when I was trying to learn as much as I could about this. And she said there's a basic tenet of her religion that requires people to hash out differences. And one of the things they teach is to look at the person and say, what is it that you know that I don't see? So if somebody is dysregulated, I've moved the chair out from between us, I've lowered my voice, I have my arms open, I can say, what is it that I don't see? And it's such a nice invitation and really does help the other person settle down.
Yeah, that's great. Any other tips on helping someone else get regulated?
If you are holding your breath, it's almost like you start mirroring the other person's discomfort. I learned this when I watched some videos of dysregulated children with a therapist. I saw numerous examples of this. As the therapist stayed in the room and didn't make it worse, there was always a time when simultaneously the child and the therapist went, they both did this
I
at
took
the
that
same
deep
time.
breath.
And I thought, okay, so some of the anxiety that the therapist would be feeling is actually the child's anxiety. So if you are in a room and this child is in big upheaval, if you tell yourself, what's going on inside me is a mirror of what's happening with them, you breathe, and it's 3 times. Just make sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale. And
Oh,
that's going to help regulate your nervous system 3 times.
I've never heard this before. So you're taking in a breath and breathing out longer than you breathe in 3 times, and that will help the other person
It actually, yeah, it helps.
regulate. That is fascinating.
Okay, and then after, I have a couple stress tips. After the stressful thing, whether you felt successful or not, you've got stress in your body. There are 3 things that we know about that actually remove stress, that really do remove stress. Okay, we know exercise. Exercise takes stress out of our body. A great big belly laugh. Go someplace, watch a funny movie, laugh really hard. It takes stress out of your body. And the third one is an ugly cry. Not a weepy all day long, leaking out cry, but the kind of cry when you are completely defeated on your bed, your heart is breaking, you feel like an animal, you're crying it out, you're giving up, you're just at your lowest. Don't you always feel better after? Yes, you do. Because letting it go and giving yourself permission to have that real heavy duty, ugly cry does remove stress out of your body. So don't beat yourself up when you have an ugly cry. That's exactly what your body needs to do.
Yeah, that is a good one. And be alone when you do that ugly cry.
Be alone.
Yes, because you don't want, first of all, for me, I don't feel like I can really let loose if there's someone
No,
else in
no.
hearing of
Maybe
me.
your cat could be there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I mean like a person. But the other thing is you don't want someone to think that
They have to
someone's
fix it
died
or
or something,
right,
right?
right. Right. Just leave it alone. I'm getting rid of stress, okay?
Yeah. I need a stress release. Please leave the house and come back in an hour.
Exactly.
Or I can leave the house. I can go sit in an empty parking lot and cry in my car. I've done that before.
Yeah.
But to be alone for that is super important because
But
I can't fully let go if
you
I know
can't
someone
let
can
loose.
hear me.
But when you start going there with the cry, don't tell yourself to keep it together, get it together,
Right.
shape up. Don't do those things. Tell yourself that I'm going to go there and go there faster and
Yeah.
let it rip and shine a light on your pain and speak it.
Yeah. I love those ideas. Is there anything else you want to say about peacemaking and peacekeeping?
Peacekeeping is people pleasing, and a lot of women in our culture are people pleasers. It's going to be difficult to move into being a peacemaker. But if we know that this is what God has asked us to do, and we can start thinking about it, we're not going to completely turn over and be a perfect peacemaker, but one conversation at a time, one conflict at a time, one day at a time. It's an exercise, and we're going to exercise that peacemaking muscle a little bit at a time and move into being the peacemakers that God wants us to be.
We're going to have conflict. The conflict's going to happen, and we get to choose our response. We can choose the response of being a peacekeeper, which isn't helpful to anyone and damaging even, or we can choose the response to be a peacemaker. So there's going to be conflict anyway, so you get to choose your response. Kathie, thank you so much for being here to help us understand the difference and to be brave enough to step into the choice to be a peacemaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for my listeners, if you have found this episode valuable, please share it with someone you care about. And please join me again next time for another episode of Just Love Them.